Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, and clearly I didn't write that in the whiskey bar this morning. Far too many big words and too many big syllables. So, look, fantastic to be here, and my job today is not to bore you to death with the Internet of Things, but to try and excite you. And I'm going to do that by showing you some of the things it can do, rather than give you a very dull speaking about what it is in, digital terms. Does anybody know what the Internet of Things is? Raise your hand. Anybody? Oh, look at that. Got a few? Fantastic. Look, it's an incredibly exciting part of the world. Ladies and gentlemen, did you realise that you can now go to KFC in China as of 2 weeks ago and pay with your face? Your face is a thing. Absolutely, your face is a thing. You can now use your face and facial recognition. Some of you would be aware the latest Apple phone came out with facial recognition as well. It's a pretty exciting thing. Did you know that cows in Ireland now have facial recognition? Yep. So cows can now milk themselves, be identified. We can work out who their parents are. We can work out who their children are. We can work out what their production is because we can actually track their facial recognition. Very exciting stuff. Did you know that you can facially recognise fish? That research's been done in Australia. That's a little harder, but it's down to a species level, so that as the fish are moving through, we're able to literally identify right species and potentially in future actually start to identify individual fish. Now, why would I start with this? Well, because it's a big thing, and at a conference in Ireland recently, some of you would have heard about the IoT for the sea, so what they call the Blue Internet of Things. The Blue Internet of Things is essentially doing to the ocean what is happening with agtech on landscape. We're digitising it. We are turning every single thing into something that you can identify, something that you can capture at a point in time, and something that you can therefore contextualise. It's an exciting world. So it's not just some madness that I've thought up. I thought I'd start to say the world really is going crazy. It's about your face. It's not just about putting an ear tag on you or having to track you anymore. So welcome to the fourth industrial revolution, my friends. Whether you like it or not, whether it's ethical, whether it's sustainable, and whether it's going to happen, it's already here. And a lot of the things I talk about today, although they sound as though they're in the future, are in fact already happening in the world, and particularly in China. Today, 740 million people will be using a smartphone in China. It's 24 hours of data on 740 million people building cognitive intelligence, which is why we're seeing such a rapid advance in that world. So this sort of stuff, we keep doubling and doubling and doubling. Most of you looking around the room are similar to me. We're young, we're only 21. So we don't remember what it was like to use computers, and we think we're pretty smart. We've seen it all. Well, that curve on the right-hand side shows exponential growth. It's going to change and change and change, and it's going to change every 3 months. This sort of stuff up here, all the buzzwords, blockchain, IoT, you name it, they're not buzzwords. Get to know them, because you're going to have to use them. Artificial intelligence is already a part of your life. You just may not have got the intelligence to catch up with it. I trust you do. I'm 50 in 2 weeks, and I'm doing my best. That's why I took this job. My kids tell me, Dad, you can't be a guru, you can't use your smartphone. I say, get my glasses, fix my phone, I need it, That's where we're at. So the impact is exponential, and this is why. Information's moving at the speed of light, okay? Digitization means things move at the speed of light. If you're not moving at the speed of light, you're moving at the speed of paper, and you're confining yourself to the human brain, you're not moving anywhere quick enough in today's world. You need to be able to democratise, which is the one that I just skipped over because I clicked it twice. Democratisation, anybody can get at the data. Your smartphone allows you to get at just about anything. That takes a lot of the regulators out of the middle. It takes middle parties out of the middle. It allows you to connect anything to anything and anyone to anyone. So democratisation is really important. Dematerialization. Anybody remember GPS and when that used to cost you a lot of money? You would in your industry because you were one of the earliest to really get into it. You used to pay a big fee for it. Comes standard in a phone now. It's no money. It's cheap. Now we all want it down to 10 centimetres or 100 millimetres, right? And maybe we pay for some of that service. Okay, so dematerialisation. Demonetisation. What if there is no money at all? What if we start to move to where transactions are seamless? It's called FPOS, already happens. Yeah? Disruption. Your market is going to be disrupted. New sources of protein, new ways of fishing, replacing fishing with other fishing, replacing things like plant sources for fish and making them look and taste like fish. It's an interesting world. So it's going to disrupt, it's going to be monumental, and it's happening. This is a heavy statement, but it's something that I think you want to try to grasp. It's the only screen like this in my whole presentation. All the rest are pictures and easy. But this is what it's all about. It's everything with everything. Now there's ethical, there's moral, there's a whole lot of behavioural differences in here that humans need to embrace. And I emphasise it's already happening. I'm not giving you the future, this is happening now. If you don't embrace this, and we don't embrace it as an industry or as individuals or as a nation, we're going to get left behind. So what's it all mean? Okay, it's big. 50 billion things connected or 30 billion things connected by 2020. That's a lot of things. Trillions of things connected by 2030. Don't worry about the number, it's big. You can connect anything to anything. Okay, we're talking about sensors, prices are dropping, 20 times over 10 years and so on. 1 trillion things connected. Big numbers. These mega trends that I've talked about, all those buzzwords, they've all been separate things and suddenly they're all coming together. The capability is there to join them all up. The artificial intelligence that associates with the device, which associates with the diagnostics, which allows you to do the blockchain, to do traceability. As I say to people, don't worry about whether you have connectivity, worry about what you're going to do when you do have connectivity. This is another big trend. Now you might ask, I'm here to talk fisheries, why am I telling you about mega cities? Have a look at the numbers. 650 or 500 plus are going to live in large cities, okay? Cities of more than 1 million people. The logistics of food is changing. The logistics of protein is changing. The logistics of waste is changing. It's not about getting a fish on a boat. It's about how that fish actually gets into a city of 1 million people in a country anywhere on Earth within 72 hours for consumption. And it gets there in a way that they know it's yours, they know it's Australian, and you get a premium price. That's what it's about, but you've got to get through that. You've got to get into a mega city. Big thing. So smart cities, smart world. Okay, that's what we're talking about, and your industry needs to be a part of it. So let's start to play around. What's out there? So I've gone and had a look. Most of this stuff's come out of the last 10 days. I've picked them as examples. You'll all be able to get this and go and have a look for yourselves. But it starts at the point of catch. So here's people that are building traceability right through to restaurants so that you're able at the point of restaurant to go, where did this thing come from? Now people go, that's really hard. But here's the problem for us. People are starting to be able to do this. So if we can't do it, we're under threat for being one of those exclusive suppliers delivering premium product because we can become one of those untraceable products. We become a less premium product. Enabled blockchain. I don't know if any of you are investing in blockchain or blockchain-enabled technologies. There's what they call initial coin offerings. Go and have a look at them. One raised $220 million in 4 days, which sparked my 19-year-old's interest no end. But go and have a look. These technologies are coming on board. They're attracting huge money. And they are showing the potential to use Internet of Things to begin to connect complex things like natural systems, which is where we work. That's where you work. You work in natural systems. Very, very complex. A handheld scanner that lets me tell freshness, lets me use cellular cell information at every stage to determine is it fresh. And by the way, it won't be long before it starts to tell me a whole lot more than if it's fresh. It will start to tell me whether it's been handled correctly and so on. Really important. Oh yeah, it came from Australia, it's fresh, it's only X days old. No, it isn't. This whole sustainability thing. Do we need to be a part of it? Yes, we do. We're a premium supplier. We're clean, we're green, that is our brand. Some countries have a choice. Some countries will sit outside of this and will sell on price. We don't have a choice. We need to be able to be a part of this, and IoT is part of the way that we will prove where our products came from and that they are sustainable. And it doesn't just stop at the fish and the environment. It doesn't just stop at your boat or your ethics. It also comes down to who you employed through that supply chain. More of a problem in some of the ag tech industries where backpackers, et cetera, we've had a few scandals in Australia, but globally this is a huge issue and the major suppliers are beginning to ask the question, who touched this food and were they paid fairly and reasonably? Is it a fair trade? These are complex things to try and track. Anybody know you can buy cooked fresh crab in Singapore? Anyone had a go at a vending machine in Singapore? Choice of 6 different sauces, cooked in 5 minutes, appears in a plastic bag, done by one of the leading restaurants. Over 100 vending machines now rolled out since March. So you can basically go and pick up, you're guaranteed, $60 these things cost each. So I don't know if we've got one with an Australian crab in it. or Australian seafood, but we should have. So it's a different way that your product is going to get directly from you to a consumer who values what you do, because this is a great way to prove provenance, great way to control what's in that machine. Here's another example in France. Oysters in vending machines, fresh oysters in vending machines. This is big in France. They do it for fruit and vegetables as well. They're quite advanced in their provenance story. They're proud of being French, they're proud of their produce, and they're very proud of selling it direct. All of a sudden, they can put it in temperature-controlled, individual. They can put a provenance story around each of those. There can be different oysters in there from different growers, and you can come along and buy your favourite one. I can build brand with you. But if we're going to supply into these international markets, this is the expectation. We're going to have to be able to not only trace, but to deliver into these kinds of sales systems. The US is looking at this sort of stuff. Really interesting. This one, new production systems. So let's go in a different direction. So this is about investment. You can see last year, $193 million raised in venture capital to have a go at your industry. Let me tell you, most of them aren't doing it the way you're doing it. Most of them are looking to do it in alternative ways, mainly aquaculture, but also replacement, things like algae, different fish foods, different ways of creating a fish flavour and a fish taste without actually using your product. 193 million raised in a year. And that's low, by the way. That's extremely low. The interest is peaking and it's on the way up. And in China, they don't even bother going for venture capital. They just find capital privately. And so we get to the Impossible Burger. Has anyone heard of the Impossible Burger? Created in a lab, drips like meat, juicy like meat, fantastic hamburger, 100% made of non-animal products. Not only is it real, it tastes great and consumers are willing to buy it, and it's beginning to scale. And if you read the fine print there, which you can't see, they do say fish are a fair way off, so I'll give that caveat. That's a little bit harder to do, getting the texture of a whole piece of fish, because we're not talking fish puree here, we're talking about a whole piece of fish, by using vegetable protein is a toughie. But you can bet they're going to try and do it. So when we look into the future, actually we're looking at today. This stuff's happening already. So maybe Disney was right. You need to know the face of your fish, your crab, your shellfish, because just like I started with, the world is coming down to everything being a thing, and it starts with identity, it starts with time, and it starts with context. Thank you very much.